When my parents told me that they had decided to send me to Lakeview Academy for my freshman year of high school, I literally laughed. I was eating dinner with my family on a normal hot July evening. However, this night would prove to be from regular. It took me almost 5 minutes to realize that my parents' plan to send me to Lakeview was serious. I argued and fought with my parents for the rest of the night, but to no avail. They had already enrolled me and made the payment for the first semester. No words can describe the anger and rage I felt towards my parents. I viewed the transfer as a punishment that I did not deserve. The rest of summer passed by as a blur. All I could think about was the approach of the new school year. My life would never be the same, and I was dreading the change. The day before the first day of school had unfortunately arrived, and I was preparing for the worst. A plethora of questions flew through my mind. Would I make friends at such a small school? What if the academic curriculum is too hard for me to handle? These questions haunted me during the night, which made falling asleep nearly impossible. The main thought that kept buzzing through my head was that tomorrow was going to be the start of the end of the rest of my life. After a long sleepless night, I forced myself out of the safety and warmth of my bed and began to prepare for the first day of school. My dad drove me towards my new school in his truck just like he had for the last 10 years of my life, but this time we were definitely not going to where we usually went. He tried to reassure me that I would like Lakeview and that sending me to this school would end up being the best thing he and my mom had ever done for me. I was not so convinced. I remember being so nervous when my dad finally dropped me off at the school. Sweat poured down my face and my hands were shaking. I put my books down the main hallway of the school and noticed that all the other students were walking towards the gymnasium. So I filed into the crowd and followed everyone else. When I arrived at the gym, I noticed that everyone was sitting in the bleachers, facing the basketball court according to their grade. I just inferred that the skittish, nervous-looking kids at the bottom of the bleachers were the freshmen. I then made the long voyage down to the floor of the gym from the top of the bleachers. I realized that some students could tell I was new, and they kept turning awkward glances in my direction. I finally made it to the bottom of the stairs and sat down in the first available seat I saw, right next to the bleacher stairs. I sat down next to the guy who would later become one of my best friends in school, Jackson Wells. After listening to the morning announcements and going through Lakeview's annual start of school rituals, I found myself walking out of the gymnasium back towards the upper school with Jackson. The two of us started talking on the way back, and many things happened in that brief 1 minute conversation. One of the first things I noticed when Jackson spoke to me was that he spoke just like my other friends did back at public school. Jackson was cracking sarcastic jokes about Lakeview's lame ceremonies and unintentionally helped me feel not so anxious. However, the uneasiness arrived again shortly when Jackson informed me that we had different first period classes. Jackson pointed me down the hall to where my class was and told me that he would see me later on during the day. Of course, I was the last one to arrive to Miss Jensen's English class, so I knew that the awkward stares and quiet murmurs were imminent. I sat down in the only available seat in the class, all the way in the back of the room. As I walked towards the back of the classroom, everyone fell silent. Miss Jensen then proceeded to call roll. When she said my name, I somehow managed to squeak out that I was present. Once I spoke, the entire class turned around and looked, and then eventually turned back around when they got the idea that the new kid's name was Jake.